Hello everyone, how you doing? I've just been doing some animations for characters, and I've come across a few tricks that I've figured out myself that have made things a lot easier, and I thought I'd share them. So let's dive right in, just quickly. So I'll show you what you generally get standard. So you can see here, here's my character. Please excuse the low resolution. It's low so that I can record properly. Um, you can see my character here, he's idling pretty good, and then he runs, and yeah. I haven't put strafing animations or backwards animations, but yeah, he runs. But you see now, as he turns around while he runs, he's still doing the same running animation. He still doesn't look like he's turning. So there's what I could have done was I could have made an animation for turning and running, but that would just be a little bit too tedious and unnecessary. So I found a way to code this. So I code in a tilt on the character while he's running, and I'll show you how to do this in a sec. The other thing is strafing while running forward. You can see he's sliding while running forward. See, I want the same animation strafing while running forward, but I want him to face in the right direction. Again, I don't want to make a completely new animation for this. I want to make a I want to code it, make my life easier. So I'm just going to show you how what I'm going to do about that. So let's close this. Alright, so there's a number of ways you can do this, but the way I like is to manipulate the bones directly. So this is my animation class here, and here it deals with blending and it animates it here and here. So I'll just show you my character rig in Blender just so you can get an idea. So here's my character. He's got a nasty looking polearm there, which I just made this morning. Anyway, you can see there's a number of bones. I'm just going to turn X-ray on the bones on. Just a sec. Oh, everything's so much more difficult with this low resolution. How did people ever survive? Anyway, you can see this bone. It's called the base bone, B-A-S-E, and it controls everything. If I tilt the base bone, everything else tilts. And here is the torso bone, and it controls everything from the hips up. Pelvis, sort of. Oh, that looks a bit dodgy. Uh, and then there's also the head bone here, which I usually keep hidden because it makes them look stupid. Um, and we're going to manipulate those bones in particular. So now that you see how my rig is set up, I'm going to show you what I've done. So basically, here is the my player animation class definition, and you can see I've defined some T entities, and they are base, torso, and head, which correspond to those in the rig. And in my function, when I first load the player, so load player function, I find those bones and put them in those entity variables. So base equals find child ply mesh. Ply mesh stands for the player mesh, which is this guy, the actual mesh that you load, and that's loaded up here. Ply mesh equals load mesh, yada yada. And I type in the name of the bone. Now all the information in that bone is stored in these T entity variables. So now I can manipulate the variables specifically. So we're going to do that now. So basically, you'll see how this works. So if turn equals 1, and this is specific to my game, but basically that if the character's turning left, turn equals 1. If they're turning right, turn equals -1. And if they're not turning, turn equals 0. So I've got if turn equals 1, then we're going to rotate the base around its z-axis, Leadwerks z-axis, but it's a y-axis in Blender, but whatever. And in this case, because it's all mixed around, it's the x-axis, but don't worry about that. And a little bit, and then I'm going to turn the torso as well. So it's sort of going to get a turning effect, and same except with negative values here. And also when I'm strafing, you notice how I was moving forward and strafing, the player didn't turn. So basically what I'm going to do is while I'm strafing, if I'm strafing and moving at the same time, so if move, so if I'm running forward or backwards, if move equals 1, which means if I'm running forwards, it'll check these and do them. So it'll rotate the base 45-degree angle in the what is it? The y-axis, Leadwerks Y, but it's a Blender z-axis. Yeah. So that's why this isn't actually a y-axis. Don't worry about that though. So let's see how this works now. Just bear with it while it loads. Alright, here we go. Let's create a game. Okay, so now we're running, yada yada. And now if we turn, you'll notice that the character tilts a bit. The whole body tilts, and then the torso tilts a tiny bit more. It actually looks like he's going around the corner now. It looks a lot more believable. And really, that was only about 5 lines of code, 4 lines of code, and really simple code too. And now if you strafe, you'll see he turns. Granted, I don't like how it tilts instantly. I'd like to smooth out that tilt, make it more gradual until it gets to a certain point, the longer I press the turn button. But that will come. That's easy. That's just a matter of doing it. But yeah, so this is a trick that I know I haven't seen it being done very often, but I think it works pretty well, and it saves you a heck of a lot of time in animation and makes your animation look a lot better. Now there's just one other thing I want to show. Some people you know, are not aware of how you go about, let's say, attaching props. So here you see my weapon in Blender here. Now I just put that there to look cool because I felt like it, so I'm going to hide that. Now you see this bone here. This bone, I've called it, what have I called it? Hand weapon right. I've got another weapon bone in the left weapon in case I'm going to dual wield weapons, for example. And then I've also got bones in the back for when my weapons are holstered. Okay? So, basically, all I have to do, now you've seen how I got the entity from the base bone and stuff. All I have to do is get the weapon bone entity, and then I have to set the entity matrix of my weapon to the entity matrix of this bone, and then parent it. And I've animated this bone so it moves with the hand, so if the weapon that I load in the game is parented to that bone, it'll animate just perfectly without ever having to animate that weapon particularly. No need for some special editor, just done in Blender. So yeah, anyway, hope you liked that video, hope you learned something. I certainly did when I started doing all this animation stuff, and I hope you like my animations. I'm not an animator. I spent a lot of time getting that run animation looking okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. So it was a lot worse than when I first got it. But anyway, hope you learned something. Hope that helped. And see you later.